This is Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Tonight, I have a truly jaw-dropping show on Otro Lado and Pitaya Queen. Now, the night before on Chris Berg's show, Point of View, 6:30 Point of View here on KXJB, I was invited to come on and talk about a recent decision that came down in the Ninth Circuit with regard to organizations like Al Otro Lado. I was on Chris's show to talk about that, and I'm going to share the segment with you, and then we're going to talk about the lawsuit, how Al Otro Lado has been fighting this administration in more than one lawsuit, and we're going to go through a few of the excerpts from that court ruling. Thank you, Duke. It's an order, really.
Okay.
It's an order granting motion to restore nationwide scope of an injunction, against the Trump administration. This is East Bay Sanctuary Covenant et al. Versus William Barr et al. So we're going to go through some of that and try to break it down and understand. And the important thing that you should be able to glean from this is that this decision was made not on behalf of migrants, not on behalf of asylum seekers, not on behalf of human rights. A ruling was made on behalf of the nonprofits that are demanding that this injunction against the Trump administration policy be made nationwide, because it affects their pocketbook, because it affects their resources, their money. And then I'm going to show you some of the claims this Nicole Ramos has made, past and present, about her poverty, her systemic poverty, to the point of exaggeration, in my opinion, because she can't stop talking about it. I'm even going to show you an excerpt from an interview. It was sort of an interview. It was more like a shouting match where she just screamed in Spanish, very incoherent Spanish, at Ben Bergquam of America's Voice when they were recently in Tijuana, along with Anthony Agüero from BNN and Oscar El Blue Ramirez. We're going to have that clip on tonight's show. In addition to that, I'm going to be sharing what's really going on in Mexico and who is stirring the pot. There is unrest on the southern border, and if you've been following Oscar El Blue's reporting on what's happening with his media contacts down in Tapachula, Chiapas, then you know that all hell has been breaking loose down south. And I'm going to show you who is behind it and why this group, Al Otro Lado, having received this favorable Ninth Circuit judge decision, is not really addressing the harm done by this organization, Al Otro Lado, in Mexico. And we're going to break it down. We're going to break down her lies, Nicole Ramos, and her cohort's lies about the work that Al Otro Lado is really doing. If you want to call it work, she calls it work. I call it crimin'. I think that what they're doing there is definitely collusion with the smuggling operation of Pueblos Sin Fronteras. Human smuggling operation of Pueblos Sin Fronteras. And they want the right to be able to continue to operate along with organized crime in Mexico, as part of organized crime with Mexico, and that their right to do that should be protected by human rights. Their right to bring people across illegally, their right to smuggle people, traffic people, what have you. It's their right. And by God, people should not be trying to take away their right to do these things. So, those crimes that they have committed, the fake marriages, the misinformation to the migrants, and how they have landed themselves on a watch list for the FBI and Interpol and many other things. All of that I'm going to cover with more detail tonight here on Mexican Crossing Lines, and who and what Miss Nicole Ramos gets close to, particularly a transgender woman that goes by the name of OJ Pitaya on Facebook, but who has many aliases, including Roberto Nakay Flote, and what she has been arrested for, charged with, and accused of in Mexico. No, it is not me that exposed all of these things. I merely translated them for my audience here on a Mexican Crossing Lines. I'm going to prove that to all of you. That's the kind of person that Al Otro Lado lawyers like Nicole Ramos and the Organization of Pueblos Sin Fronteras work with, beside, in collusion with. And I'm going to show you what they really do. But first, I want to thank everyone for supporting our super chats, for supporting and donating to the work of this station. We do put in a lot of time to bring you this information that no one else has been documenting. And we are collaborating with so many different media outlets and sources that we hope that you will continue to support the work of this station so we can bring you this exclusive news. Duke, how can people get a hold of us and support our work?
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's very exciting. We have a really good show set up for you tonight, and I appreciate all the people. We've been doing the Facebook Lives and the YouTube Super Chats. We're back on the Facebook Live tonight. I'd like to thank all of you who have joined us, and also for our radio listening audience. You can get a hold of us, and you can give us a call at our call-in line at 701-566-0917. It's 701-566-0917. You can email Cindy at kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can find us on Twitter by tweeting at media_PPP. You can also go to Facebook to 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, the People's Press Project, the Mexi-Can. Now we have a website, kpppfm.com. I'd like you to go there and have a look at some of our shows. There's a Mexican Crossing Lines there. All of our shows are up to date there. And we use our YouTube videos. We record these videos when we do Facebook Lives, and we upload them to YouTube, so they're in high definition. And we cut out the music in the beginning, music in the end. And it's for the people on YouTube who don't go to Facebook, and other people that might not like Facebook and are joining us on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel at Duke1517. That's a channel where we've been uploading all of our videos. Plus, we have a lot of historic content on that YouTube channel. I think it's the only one I have. Maybe I have another one, but this one I've had for over 10 years. So there's a lot of content from the past 10 years here in Fargo Moorhead, up here in the hinterland of the United States. Also on kpppfm.com. Please go to the donate tab. As Cindy mentioned, that we are a nonprofit organization. Every donation you make to us goes into the station's work, and it's tax deductible. We raise money by asking the community to support us, and we have community support, and we're a nonprofit, and we receive funding, and it's a tax deduction. We also do underwriting. If you have a business or something you'd like to have announced on the air here in the Fargo Moorhead area that reaches close to 200,000 people, we can do an underwriting spot for your business. What you do is you make a tax deductible donation. Then we work with the language on the piece. It's going to be less than 30 seconds. And you can basically be known for supporting our work and also getting your business location, what you do, and all those things mentioned on the air. So you might get some customers out of your philanthropy. We really appreciate that. So please go to our website, have a look around. We also have a lot of other information from our earlier podcasts and all the radio shows we've done for the past 3 years. And I'd also like to thank the person who's been sending a monthly donation to us. And it came today, and the card is here, and thank you very much. We do appreciate the thanks. With thanks, the card says, and we appreciate the thanks for thanking you. So thank you very much for supporting us, and enjoy the show tonight.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing this to your groups. Thank you for sharing this on your pages, on your walls. We really appreciate every share, every top fan, because it extends the reach of the story. And guys, this is very important stuff. Nobody else is compiling this information. And the haters out there that I have exposed, including the most recent one, Paloma for Fraud, will repeat that the information, they'll parse hairs on the way I said a word, or they'll bend the truth. If I read a comment somebody posted on my show, they'll say, I was saying that was the gospel truth about whatever. They'll twist things just ever so slightly to make it appear that I've made up information about them, or I have embellished about something, so it must mean that the whole thing is a lie. When in fact, I show my work extensively. I give example after example after example after example. You can, lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Exactly. And, we're not going to respond to a lot of these things. We're not in the habit of, she said this, and we're going to say, well, what you had was wrong information, and defend it. It's just sucking us in. They're trolls. And I'm not going to sit there and go through all these different things, and you just need to watch our shows, look at the information we put out there, and check for yourself. You can tell whether we're basing this stuff, whether they're lying, and they do really sloppy research and put out false information. I'm just not going to give it any credence or any attention.
See, we're a low-power FM radio station, a non-for-profit. Our main goal is in educating, informing, and providing resources for our community and for all of our listeners nationwide and internationally. We got into doing media work because we want to provide people an unvarnished view of how we see research and reflect the news that is happening locally from the perspective of an interracial couple living in the Midwest. This is what and who we are. So if folks subscribe to the channels or listen to our radio programs, share our information, and like the content, welcome. Thank you for being here. Mwah, we love you back. If you don't, that's fine too, right? Like, nobody is holding a gun to anybody's head here and demanding that you watch our shows. In fact, a lot of these cowardly people that claim that we have slandered or defamed them in some way, most of whom threaten to sue us, none of whom ever have, because they can't, because it won't go anywhere, and because they will end up opening themselves up to discovery, which they never want to have to do. They're just trying to deflect in some way the truth about what is being exposed, about who they are, the darkness behind who they are. And let me tell you something that has been very consistent as I have exposed these characters. I scratch the surface, and you see them come at you with all of the rabid might of someone who is hiding something very, very bad. Very, very bad. And you will find evidence of the very, very bad soon enough. And it's incredible how it's not just myself that has discovered this in these individuals. Many other people who've already been victimized by them also know it. So a lot of these people go from place to place to place to place and hide. Are very good at hiding their true nature because they don't ever want anyone to uncover what they really are. And I've learned to look at folks that have the same pattern of behavior and to create profiles of different categories of actors, of influencers, of people in spectacle, in order to figure out what their modus operandi will be and what kinds of actions I can expect from that kind of person, that category of person. And I looked at all of these people individually, and I have done so over years, including the groups and organizations that they are attached to. It has opened my eyes greatly about how easily we all are affected by social media and propaganda and politicians and rhetoric and NGOs and campaigns, and how we are so divided into our parties and into our politics that we're kind of sitting ducks as Americans. Even though you may think you're really intelligent and nobody has the ability to kind of suck you in, I've learned that that's not really true. I've learned that everyone is susceptible and that we should be looking out for it and what it hides behind, what's hidden behind it. So tonight I'm going to go into all of this. First, I want you to listen to what I said on the Point of View show with Chris Berg here on KXJB Channel 4.
Yes.
Here's that clip.
It was last night.
Last night on Al Otro Lado. If you missed it, here you go. A little clip.
That is making decisions about our national security. And he's siding with nonprofit organizations. So a judge, unelected, making decisions about our national security, our sovereignty at the southern border, and making decisions based on nonprofit organizations. I want to share with you an excerpt from his decision that is very, very important. If you can bring up this graphic, please. He said, among other things, the court found that the organizations had established a sufficient likelihood of irreparable harm through diversion of resources and the non-speculative loss of substantial funding from other sources. Now, what's important to note here is that one of these organizations that this judge mentions is called Otro Lado. It is an organization that's helping people cross our southern border, I would say oftentimes illegally. There's a person that's been doing a lot of investigative research on this organization. She joins us tonight, Cindy Gomez-Schempp, who hosts the show, A Mexican Crossing Line. Cindy, thanks so much for joining us. I saw this decision today. You immediately came to mind. You've told me a lot about Otro Lado. Tell our audience, because from what you've told me, they seem to be fairly nefarious. Tell our audience about this organization and what they're doing.
Well, thank you for having me on. One of the things that really disturbed me about Otro Lado and this particular decision is that they've been operating in Mexico without a license, misleading and misinforming migrants about immigration law and asylum seeking. And what they are doing is encouraging people to bring false and frivolous claims of asylum, taking advantage of loopholes in our asylum laws. And ultimately, these people that claim that they're there as volunteers, I mean, this is what's galling about what the graphic you just showed. They're losing money or support. They say that they don't take in money. They say that they're all volunteers, that they're not making money. In fact, Nicole Ramos, one of the 3 attorneys that founded Al Otro Lado, always complains about the fact that she doesn't have shoes and that her car is 21 years old. So, I mean, these folks are really doing harm not only to our laws. They're working with a group being investigated by the FBI, Interpol, and many government agencies here in the United States, as well as in Mexico and Central America, for working with a criminal organization that is being investigated for human trafficking and smuggling. Pueblos Sin Fronteras has no qualms in working with people that are connected to organized crime in Mexico and that are involved in Mexico that have been accused of trafficking men, women, and children, sexually and otherwise. So I feel that this organization is not just only working to undermine the sovereignty of Mexico and the United States, but to break down our systems, our institutions. Every country has institutions that you can look at and pick apart and say, you know, they're not perfect. But our legal system, the system of detention facilities, the system of laws that we have for immigration are incredibly complex and incredibly generous compared to Central America and Latin America in general. So these people from Al Otro Lado, they want to destroy our current system by breaking it, by sending thousands and thousands of people and overwhelming the system and allowing people to use this loophole in asylum seeking so that they can just disappear into the United States and stay here illegally. And furthermore, just one more point, Chris,
yes,
they're putting all those migrants at risk because no matter what this judge says, no matter what this activist judge says, Mexico is going to continue to detain those people, and they're going to remain stranded in one of the most dangerous cities in the world, Tijuana, Baja California.
So I want to move on, but real quickly, because that was part of his decision, though. It was the decision today that the judge made was say, hey, look, I don't feel good about having President Trump with his rule saying that Mexico can qualify as a safe third country. And now you're saying that Tijuana is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. So did this judge rule correctly by saying, hey, look, it's not safe for these people to be here. They should be coming to the United States?
Look, I can't tell you how this is going to play out in the legal system. I'm not a lawyer. I am not a judge. But what I will tell you is, as we all know, the Ninth Circuit is a very liberal circuit. They have given a lot of negative decisions against this administration. And how this will all play out in court is part of the game that organizations like Al Otro Lado play, because in the process of waiting for a final ruling, which I'm sure is going to be favorable to our government, to this administration, and to the president, and ultimately, they're buying time so that they can continue to crime with Pueblos Sin Fronteras and smuggle people into our country.
So, I figured instead of recreating the wheel, I would just play the clip where I talked about what these folks are doing. And I hope everybody got that. I hope everybody could understand that. But I want you to know that just like the con artivists and mercenary activists that came to Standing Rock, many of whom are involved in this border support network, okay? They raised millions and millions of dollars to sue the Army Corps of Engineers, to sue the Trump administration, to sue on environmental grounds, to sue on sovereignty grounds, to sue on blah, 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 blah. What happened to those lawsuits? Yeah. Who knows? What happened to the millions of dollars? I don't know. But the same thing, and some of the same lawyers and some of the same legal groupings are now involved in funding, in raising money for, and in working with the Border Support Network. And these crooked lawyers are there like vultures to take advantage of people's sadness over what's happening at the border, fears about the crisis, you know, and they think that if people are throwing money at this problem, they're going to be there to catch a lot of it in their net. What they're doing with the money, even as they advertise at El Otro Lado that they are going to help all these migrants, they're helping thousands and thousands of people, is suing the government. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
That's right. And a lot of times these fake activists do these lawsuits. Standing Rock's a good example.
Oh, yeah.
There was 2 or 3 lawsuits that were filed. They raised all sorts of money. We never ever heard about whatever happened to those lawsuits. They just kind of fade away because, you know, if you file lawsuits, there's so many procedures. They go into court, then go in court again. And at some point, you know, it gets pushed off a long time. And they still raise money. They bank on that, and they keep on banking on it. This group is no exception, going from the same playbook as the attorneys did for Standing Rock.
And, you know, they were traveling around the country from these groups of lawyers. The one lawsuit that I remember that had ties to the Kathleen Bennett case, because Kathleen Bennett's son was one of the first people they put on as a plaintiff against Donald Trump. And they then later took him off and had a bunch of very prominent leaders, indigenous leaders from Standing Rock, like Phyllis Young's daughter, Washte Wee, and that Michelle Cook from the WPLC
Sarah Jumping Eagle.
and Sarah Jumping Eagle, Chase Iron Eyes' wife, and that's why they called it Jumping Eagle versus Trump. And one of the lead attorneys traveling around the country where they spoke at universities, at different events and churches, collecting money along the way, going even to Europe, collecting money along the way, was an Indian lawyer by the name of Red Wolf Pope. Except later, turned out he wasn't a lawyer. And furthermore, it turned out he wasn't an Indian. He was Chinese. He just pretended to be an Indian. And he and his brother Mala and his daddy Rolling Thunder before him all had a history of setting up these communities somewhere in the South where they had a mostly white people audience come to their shamanic whatever camp where they were all rumored to have sexually assaulted people. The end. Oh, wait, no, there's more. And this fake lawyer and fake Indian that was heading up this scam lawsuit against the Trump administration from Standing Rock ended up being a serial rapist and is now facing charges in multiple states for raping women that stayed at his Airbnbs and filming it so he could watch it later.
Be careful who you donate to.
Yeah. So I can't tell you what's going to happen with these lawsuits, but if I were going to judge by what they've done in the past, it's going to look like this kind of a poop show. It's going to be like that. I don't put any stock. I don't have any belief that these lawsuits and their temporary wins along the way in the Ninth Circuit, is going to have the outcome that they wished for if it goes to the Supreme Court. But you all know how long that takes, and there's a possibility, unfortunately, that it may not reach the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court might not take the case. Although it is against the Trump administration, so there's a good chance that it'll make it in. But what I'm saying is it's going to take a long time to find out either way. And they have multiple lawsuits. Here's one fighting Trump lawsuit by Al Otro Lado. This is Nicole Ramos's post. She's one of the lawyers that founded Al Otro Lado, who, by the way, said that she just moved to California several years prior. She had been in Alabama working as a public defender and never practiced immigration law before she decided to move to California one day and start up a law firm just several years ago. Never practiced immigration law before.
Just wing it.
Sounds okay, right?
Right.
I mean, what could go wrong practicing a type of law that is the most complicated of all the types of law, except for maybe tax code? But that should be okay, right? Okay. Well, here's another one of the lawsuits they're involved with, and you see who they're pairing up with. She is complaining against Trump, and she says, "Go home, Trump. You're drunk," said the federal court in a more elegant and judicious manner. You can't rewrite the intent of Congress. You can't deprive thousands of their right to seek asylum while you direct federal law enforcement on the border to routinely violate the law, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so down at the bottom, she says, thanks to the fierce counsel at Southern Poverty Law Center, the Center for Constitutional Rights, the ACLU, and of course, so proud to be fighting this pathetic white nationalist administration along East Bay Sanctuary Covenant Innovation Law Lab and Carecen, Los Angeles. Note who's involved. And if you scroll, you'll see that it is in relation to the article about the Southern Poverty Law Center's lawsuit to block the president's asylum ban. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, in the recent decision that just came down, you can read about it yourself in Politico at this article titled "Judge Restores Nationwide Block of Asylum Ban." I'll share the link with all of you so you can take a look for yourselves. It explains that the San Francisco-based federal judge on Monday restored a nationwide injunction against President Donald Trump's move to ban asylum seekers who pass through another country en route to the United States. A U.S. District Judge, John Tigar, issued the order after considering new evidence presented in an ongoing lawsuit on the third country asylum ban. The decision to block the policy nationwide for the second time comes after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit Court in August narrowed in an early injunction by Tigar. The Ninth Circuit's decision kept the policies blocked in California and Arizona, but allowed to be implemented in Texas and New Mexico. So, let's take a look at what this court order says. Here's an excerpt from the court order in which they talk about the plaintiffs being the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant, Otro Lado, Innovation Law Lab, and Central American Resource Center. What's really interesting here is that it says that by consent of the parties, the motion was converted to one for preliminary injunction, which the court granted on July 24th. The injunction prevented the defendants from quote, taking any action continuing to implement the rule, and ordered them to return to the pre-rule practices for processing asylum applications. Among other things, the court found that, quote, the organizations had established a sufficient likelihood of irreparable harm to them, to the organizations, through, quote, diversion of resources and the non-speculative loss of substantial funding from other resources. The defendants appealed to the order to the Ninth Circuit and moved for a stay pending the appeal. So I want to, they talked about a lot of jurisdictional issues going forward and making this nationwide. And here's excerpt number 2, in which they talk about the circumstances of the two decisions that they mention here, one which is favorable to them and one which is less favorable. And then they talk about how they are, their situation, their legal circumstances are more similar to the favorable decision. One of them is Bresgal, the other is Azar. And it says that a discussion of the two plaintiff circumstances makes this point. Plaintiff Innovation Law Lab is a nonprofit focused on improving the legal rights of immigrants and refugees in the U.S. The Law Lab has offices in California, Oregon, Missouri, Texas, and Georgia. Law Lab offers workshops and support to non-citizens and pro bono attorneys in Georgia, Kansas, Missouri, North Carolina, and Oregon, as well as to legal service providers at immigrant detention centers throughout the country. Law Lab can offer such a geographically diverse set of services partly thanks to template material it has developed to assist asylum seekers. Law Lab also directly represents persons applying for asylum inside and outside of the Ninth Circuit. Is that the whole thing, or does it scroll?
Doesn't scroll at all.
Okay, then you can go to the next one, please. In this one, it talks about al otro lado. And it said, let's just read the rest of the Law Lab one. It says,
back one?
No, the one you were just on.
Okay.
So it says, for example, the Law Lab would have to, these are the harms it would go through. The Law Lab would suffer a variety of harms, it says. For example, it would have to redesign its workshops and its templates and, quote, devote significant time to retraining volunteers on the new standards and how to screen for attendees who might be subject to the ban. And then it says direct representation work will, quote, become significantly more complicated and burdensome, close quote. Implementation of the rule outside the Ninth Circuit would also adversely impact Law Lab within the Ninth Circuit by diverting resources to clients who are subject to the rule. I just want to show folks here, they're talking about resources, retraining, all of which cost money. And then Al Otro Lado talks about what their damages would be. It's a nonprofit's mission, which is in part to provide screening, advocacy, and legal representation for individuals in asylum and other immigration proceedings. Al Otro Lado is based in California as well as Tijuana, Mexico. It offers legal orientation workshops at its Tijuana office, providing information about the U.S. asylum system to migrants who wish to seek asylum in the U.S. Al Otro Lado recruits and trains volunteers and pro bono attorneys to assist with these workshops. A number of Al Otro Lado's clients end up crossing the border in Texas, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what they've said in court documents about what they do and where they do it. Is there one more?
Yes, there is.
This is another excerpt. I want to nail them down because this is, part of a court record now.
Yeah, and it's important to get this to catch the rest of the program and what it all means.
And I'm putting up my work so you can see. Okay, go ahead. So it says that scroll down. Defendants do not dispute this evidence, engage with the applicable law. Instead, they devote much of their argument to focusing on the lack of harm. So the defendant, which is the government of the United States, their response says that Al Otro Lado and these other groups have not shown any evidence of actual harm to asylum seekers. And the plaintiffs, which is Al Otro Lado and this group of other organizations, say that despite multiple opportunities, the plaintiff's counsel does not identify a single bona fide client who suffers injury as a result of the rule or explains how an injunction limited to such aliens would not cure their illegal injuries while this litigation proceeds. So this is the Trump administration arguing that they can't really prove that anybody is being harmed by this. And the plaintiffs respond that it's a straw man argument, that the harm to them as an organization, not to their clients, the migrants themselves, was the focus of the court's injunction. Okay? So let's just be clear. This is not about the migrants. This is not about the asylum seekers. It's about Al Otro Lado and all of those organizations.
Yep, exactly.
And their monetary damages. Mm-hmm. Did you get that?
They're the ones that are hurt.
I know it was a little boring to listen to that, but like I said, I like to bring receipts because then you have these pendejos and pendejas saying that I lied, that I didn't have proof. And there it is. And this is a woman that is constantly complaining about her poverty.
Yeah.
Here's a post in which she's talking about how she had to Sharpie her shirt because it had a stain on it so that she could look more professional, and had to wear $2 flip-flops from the supermarket to go to court. And then here's another one in which she's talking about how worn out her boots are and how the shoe cobbler thought she was crazy for trying to repair them instead of buying herself new shoes. These people get off on this poverty porn and the woe is me. And it's almost like they want you to believe that they're worse off than the migrants, that they're suffering on behalf of these migrants who they're saving is worse, and that you should turn them into the saviors of the migrants. And look at how this woman reacts. This is a similar, like a flashback of what happened when we went there, except she didn't come out like a crazy person and scream at us.
No, she just went on Facebook and made posts.
She just went on Facebook and made posts and sent threatening messages to Oscar and acted like we were crazy people and had the people at ABS conference attack us. But take a look at this clip from America's Voice where Ben Berquam, the reporter from America's Voice, along with Oscar El Bru Ramirez and Anthony Agüero, confront this woman and Erica Piñero, her co-conspirator? No, the other person that founded Al Otro Lado with her. Check out how rabid and how angry they get. And notice, this woman's Spanish is horrible. I will try to translate some of the crazy things that she's saying.
Okay.
But she knows English perfectly. She's gone to different events in Tijuana where she has refused to speak in Spanish because she doesn't want to be confronted or questioned in Spanish in a language she doesn't feel comfortable in. But when an American reporter from America's Voice confronts her, she only speaks in Spanish to him and says, "You're in Mexico. You got to speak Spanish." Hypocrite much? She is rabid against Oscar and against Ben. And when Oscar starts speaking to her both in Spanish and in English, she just goes, "You know what? I got to switch back into my dominant language because I can't beat this guy."
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And of course, she has to talk about her damn poverty. Like, seriously, this woman is such a hypocrite. Clip roll.
And this just happened last week, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just a week old.
You say the third floor is where they have all their services. So, this is what they put outside. And you see, like, families right here. You see outside the asylum seeker line. Well, it's not, asylum seeker line. This is practically people that they already been deported. One or two, they already gave them advice. And
Or they want to cut in front of the line. This is what El Otro Lado is doing, is getting people in illegally. That's really their objective.
Yes, and
Their objective is to make money. Oh, we got people coming down. Hey, come on, let's talk.
Oh, right here. There's an American activist right here, or an American worker.
It's interesting. It's interesting that they have walls and bars. Look, bars no less. They have bars on the windows inside. Bars on the windows, guys. But they don't want a wall. They don't want a wall.
This is the funny thing. As soon as this is the funny thing that happened last time. As soon as one of them communicates to every single one of them, they start scattering around the whole place.
Why are all the windows tinted?
Because look, they're coming. They're going to start to come, but eventually they're not going to open the door, and they're not going to answer no questions.
So but interesting. They have a broken window here. Is anybody in there? Hello. El Otro Lado. This is, my name is Ben Berquam. I'm with America's Voice News. We'd like to ask you some questions about your aiding and abetting the invasion of America. An American organization in Mexico attempting to undermine American sovereignty. Anybody? Why are you creating fake marriage licenses?
Just 1 minute.
They're all climbing to the top of the building. Why are they all climbing to the top of the building?
That is where they have like their little hub.
Look.
Their little that's still like their little hub where they're oh, that's Nicole Ramos.
Nicole Ramos, we want to talk to you. Nicole Ramos, we see you. Please come talk.
Oh, that's another lawyer that is
Why is El Otro Lado, an American organization, undermining America? Why is El Otro Lado in Mexico undermining America? Why are you trafficking children and creating fake marriage licenses?
And they're mad. This is what I told you. I told you, Ben, this. You gave me the finger.
Did she give you the finger?
Why?
So she's just like all the American leftists.
Why? Yeah, and this is what they come over here. They try to get, legal advice.
Howdy, how you doing? Can we have a conversation? My name's Ben. I'm with America's Voice.
Have a conversation with people who are blatantly racist.
Who's racist?
You are.
Is Blue racist?
I'm racist.
You're racist against.
Porque yo soy racista.
Tienes xenofobia. Es un poco. Sí,
Yo soy
no.
primero por México y por nuestros pobres. Así es, y por la gente pobre.
Por los pobres.
Ayudo a toda la gente en la canalización del río y ayudo a la gente pobre y he dado para atrás a
¿Y
organizaciones.
qué hago yo? ¿Y qué hago yo?
Estás haciendo matrimonios falsos, Nicole.
No estoy haciendo matrimonio.
Hay una evidencia. Hay una evidencia.
Son ceremonias religiosas. No es mi culpa que no entiendes nada y no es mi culpa que no entiendas su propia historia.
No, Nicole, ahí está el
Ajá.
documento.
Por ejemplo, Chiapas no es una ciudad, es un estado.
Y yo lo sé que es un estado.
Sí, porque dijiste que es una ciudad.
Tapachula es una ciudad, Nicole.
Sí,
Aprende
yo sé,
historia.
ya,
Aprende historia,
ya,
Nicole.
no, yo miré,
Edúcate, Nicole.
yo miré tus videos.
Edúcate, Nicole.
Yo miré-
Edúcate. ¿Ves lo que ves lo que
¿Quieres
están haciendo
¿quieres
ahorita,
que te
Nicole?
muestre?
Ok, Nicole, ¿qué vas a hacer aquí con esta gente? ¿Le vas a prometer que la vas a cruzar al otro lado?
No, vamos a dar
Can we get a little translation in English?
vamos
Over here.
vamos a dar orientación legal sobre la crueldad, sobre la tortura que
What
están enfrentando
cruelty?
en el
What cruelty?
las hileras. ¿Ya sabes sobre las
Yeah,
hileras?
yeah, I know about
Es-
that.
y estamos dando orientación que las cosas que ellos van a enfrentar, para que si tienen la oportunidad para quedar en México y para legalizar su estado en México.
But why?
get into it in
Okay.
English.
But why do you have activists on the other side telling them to come over here? It's not their obligation to do that. That is legal. That's why is this guy? Are you a lawyer? Are you a lawyer?
No estamos
No.
dando esperanza.
Can I ask you a question?
Estamos
You're
dando información
You're
ilegal.
violating Article 33 of my Constitution, and you're violating Article 6 and Article 7 and Article 11 are my Constitution of Mexico. Are you a registered organization over here
Sí.
of lawyers?
Sí.
Are you a registered?
Sí.
Can I see that paper?
No, no puedes ver
Why
ningún
not?
papel porque viene a este edificio para acosarme, no para, no para
I wanna
conseguir
ask you
información.
questions. I
No,
wanna
no
ask you
quieres,
questions.
no quieres.
I want to ask you questions.
Yo mandé un mensaje
Hang on.
a este hombre
Nicole, can I ask you a
para
question?
platicar.
No, you
Look, hang
insulted
on.
the message.
Okay,
No,
hang
no,
on.
Le
Okay,
dije, si quiere una entrevista,
Why are you
háblame.
related
hang
to
on.
River
No
Okay,
puede
Why are you
acosar.
related to River Dog?
okay. Actually, hang on. Time.
No tengo una relación
Nicole, can I ask you a question?
con las personas que están en este
Okay, why?
edificio.
Can you speak in English?
Okay, would you answer some questions for me, Nicole?
Estamos en México. vamos
You're
a-
from America, right? You're an American citizen.
Perdón.
Hang on. Okay, so why is El Otro Lado an American organization down in
Somos
Mexico?
una organización binacional.
You speak- yeah.
Binacional. No es mi culpa que no entiendes español.
So should you be prosecuted for aiding and abetting the invasion?
Excuse me?
You're intentionally undermining American sovereignty. That is what El Otro Lado is here.
Que no entiendes.
You're harassing us.
No, I'm asking you
Ya,
questions.
ya,
You
ya
are
me-
you are undermining American.
Goodbye.
You are undermining American sovereignty. You should be prosecuted for aiding and abetting.
Get out of
My
here.
name's that's why I'm here. I'm introducing myself. My name's Ben with America's Voice News, and we're trying to find out why American organizations are in Mexico undermining American sovereignty,
I think people know what the law is, and
creating fake marriages.
no.
We have documentation of it. Fake marriages coming from this organization. Trafficking children.
Yo soy bajo.
Trafficking children.
Full of shit. Okay.
You guys are intentionally undermining American sovereignty. Why?
I tell everyone what a nightmare the U.S. is. I don't tell.
So why are you in America?
Land. Pardon?
Why do you live in America? You hate
I
America?
don't live in America. I live here.
So you're an American citizen that hates America.
I don't hate America.
Why are you
believe
trying
to
to
hold-
get people there?
I believe to hold my country
You hate the
to its
United
ideal.
States.
I love America. And I love Mexico. I love Mexico. No, it's time that we protect all nations.
Todo este tráfico de niños. Ustedes saben lo que están haciendo.
Tráfico de niños. Si yo soy traficante.
You guys are supporting the cartels. You're supporting the cartels.
Ay, la policía.
You guys are supporting the cartels.
Para lo de River Dog y todos los activistas y el matrimonio falso que hiciste.
Son ceremonias religiosas. Y si quieres hablar con los pastores, puedes hablar con los
Ya hemos
pastores.
hablado con él y él nos entregó un documento que está enseñando que hiciste tu matrimonio.
Ajá. Pues River no trabaja con nosotros.
Y otra cosa, para que te quede bien clarito.
Did you support open borders? Because we support legal immigration, not illegal. Legal immigration.
Seeking asylum isn't legal.
No, I do. No, you're creating fake documents. You're creating fake documents, and then you're telling them to rip them up when they get there. Well, all you guys are doing is raising money. That's all this is. You're raising money. That's all this entire.
Building?
Yes, I
Do you
do.
see? This is the only pair of shoes that I own.
Okay.
I drive a 99 vehicle.
Good.
Okay.
Very good. Yes. So the
I
problem
live a
is,
very humble life.
and they
These are literally the only pair of shoes that I own.
okay. The
So
organization
don't tell
El
me that I
Otro
owe you a lot
Lado,
of money.
the
You wanna see
the
this
organization
phone? This
El
is my
Otro
phone.
Lado.
So if I'm gaining a lot of money, why don't I?
I'm not
have one
talking
of
about
these
you
my phone?
personally. I'm saying the organization is undermining America and simply using these people.
No, I am suing the U.S. government for their violations of federal law.
What violations? Protecting children, taking children away from cartel members that are trafficked in? You're talking about the They're trafficking children. You guys are helping them traffic children.
She needs one of those big hooks like they have on.
On stage. Oh, here's the policia.
Oh, thank God. The
They're
police are
trafficking
here.
children, guys.
Her Spanish is
Everything
horrible.
that they are doing, along with Pueblo Sin Fronteras and Central Sin Fronteras.
That's right, Ben. Pueblo Sin Fronteras and Centro Sin Fronteras and all of the Sin Fronteras. Exactly correct. Everyone knows this. And of course, did you see the rabidness with which they attack? They're saying, Blue asked, are you certified to be here? Do you have the right to work and practice law in Mexico? And she said, we're a binational organization in Spanish to Ben Bergquam. And he says to her, so you're certified to work here in the United States? And she said, yes, we are, in Spanish to Blue. And then he says, can you show me the documentation? And she goes, no, I won't show it to you. I won't show it to you because you're here to harass me. That's what she said. Mm-hmm. You're here to harass me. And then in swoops Erica Pinheiro, and she's like trying to pull her. Mm-hmm. She's like,
like quit fighting.
Like she yanks her in and she comes back out.
Yeah.
And then she yanks her back in. Oh my God. Do those look like lawyers to you?
Yeah.
I'm asking a serious question. I know a lot of lawyers.
That's right.
And boy, I will tell you something. These lawyers, I mean, they can go from 0 to 60 in a second. They can get really mad. I mean, of course, lawyers, especially those that are trained to go into the trial room, that do a lot of trials, that go into court a lot. They need to be able to stand in front of cameras, to talk to the media, to speak to juries, and to be very convincing and very passionate. But also there is a code of ethics and behavior that lawyers are supposed to follow. And under them, paralegals.
Exactly. And Nicole Ramos is... She's just coming unhinged because she's used to going to these junkets and going to these universities, having all the people in the United States, all the white people going, oh, you're a savior. You're helping those poor migrants with legal help. They need it so bad. How much you need? And she gets all this reinforcement all over the country. She travels around. She goes to events. She raises money for the organization. And she's the front person for the organization. And she's treated with one of these saviors, the great liberal savior. And liberals love that. They need a savior because liberals really don't want to do anything. They want someone else to do it. And if they can throw money at it, they will. Because then they're doing something. Because, liberals aren't liberal with their money. They're cheap. So when they let go of some money, they're basically making a big sacrifice, have a lot of expectation. But then when she's in Mexico, she's coming unhinged. She's tired of being criticized for these things she needs to be criticized for.
And let me tell you, I didn't put all of it into this show because I've already done past shows on Al Otro Lado, on all their funders and the people that have raised money for them, including Tina Fey, Saturday Night Live fame, Tina Fey, and other celebrities and entertainers, organizations like Rise to Unite or Reunite, Rise to Reunite. In fact, if you want to go to the kpppfm.com and look at the past shows in which I talked about Al Otro Lado, Nicole Ramos, Rise to Reunite, Tina Fey, you can type in combinations of these things into our search bar and it'll pop up the show in which I talked about it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, I did an extensive description.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't have enough time.
It's not in there. It's hard to find.
There's some shows that, but whatever. The point here is this. The point is that they have gotten millions and millions and millions of dollars. And when I was there and I was running around questioning people, migrants at different shelters and asking them, who's your lawyer? Who's your legal representative for your asylum claim? They didn't have one. And they had tried to get a hold of all of them. Some of the people I was questioning were standing right outside of that building that Ben Bergquam was at. And they were like, yeah, they wouldn't help me. And all of the people that I interviewed said they didn't have a lawyer. Some of them had gone in to get advice or legal advice and thought they were going to be lawyering with Al Otro Lado and then didn't get help. And those people talked about their experience with me. And they showed me that they actually had contracts, which I'm going to show you in a minute here. But first, I want to remind you of what Ben Bergquam was talking about, because it's very important to note that Al Otro Lado is working hand and fist with Pueblos Sin Fronteras. And what is Pueblos Sin Fronteras been doing? As you know, when President Trump threatened Mexico with tariffs, shortly thereafter, National Guard were deployed, which had never been done. And we started seeing a precipitous decline in illegal border crossings, both in the southern border of Mexico and our southern border as well. And in addition to that, there was arrests that happened. One of those arrests was Irineo Mujica. The other of those arrests was Cristobal Sanchez, both of them with Pueblos Sin Fronteras. They were later released, as many of these criminals are in Mexico, where corruption. But that is not to say that there is not ample proof that Pueblo Sin Fronteras has been smuggling people. He's been accused by many different people that have been witnesses, that have heard directly from the migrants that they extorted money from, etc., etc. But that's not all. They organize the migrants from these different groups to have them make a big scene in Mexico and to say that the authorities in Mexico are victimizing them, that their human rights are being violated. The UN should be called in immediately. The press should come and see the horrors of the treatment of the Mexican racist people. Sound familiar?
Yep.
And the people that stir that pot are Pueblos Sin Fronteras. And of course, their allies, these crooked lawyers, Al Otro Lado, and the many other groups that work with them, the groups of clergy people. They're all pot stirring for the spectacle, for the photo shoot, for the article to be captured by their media allies, to continue the propaganda in the vortexes, the wind tunnels of their media platforms and social media contacts and influencers who are controlling the narrative, most of which we consume on these topics. I want you to see this video of what's currently going on down there. Jack Pozobiec tweeted this video out about what's happening with the African migrants in Chiapas. There's been many riots. You can see a clash here. You want to narrate, Duke?
Bunch of people clashing with
National Guard.
Yeah, National Guard,
Police.
federal police.
They're fist fighting. Look.
Fist fighting. They're coming up, and one guy's pushing the cops back. It's like, come on, guys. The police have shields on, and they're being pushed back. The police looks like they're being aggressed against more, and they've got some handlers. They got people going in front of the police going, back up, back up. Oh, man, there's an officer that's knocked out.
Injured officer that's knocked out.
They're carrying him back to the truck. There's a guy on the ground.
That's a migrant.
People standing around. There's an officer moving his shield forward, trying to back up the crowd. There's people holding their hands up. Oh, then there's the military all lined up together, and the migrants are walking up, pointing at them, pointing at their faces, yelling at them, pushing on their shields with their hands, pushing them backwards. The police are trying to stand their ground, move forward now, and they're pushing them backward, and the migrants keep on pushing them back. There's whistles blowing. Okay, here's another shot of behind the police line.
Does this look peaceful to you?
No, not at all.
Does this look like people that you want to come into your country?
No, what a reception.
And by the way, folks, the people, if this is reminiscent of what we saw in Tijuana, of what we saw in Mexicali, where they burned one of the centers, if this is reminiscent of when the first caravans came in and knocked down the southern gate on the bridge and injured our INAMI agents in Mexico and killed some INAMI agents in Mexico, it is because they are the tactics of Pueblos Sin Fronteras. They train these folks. I told you they trained them to go and have a violent clash with Border Patrol because their media allies were going to be there to film it. because they do that. That's what they did here at Standing Rock. And who is down there right now in Chiapas? Cuadratin Chiapas tweeted that Pueblos Sin Fronteras and Irineo Mujica are. And as you can see, the very same pictures from the images you just saw of riot police and Shields is next to him. And he gave an interview in which he said, he sat there in front of the camera and he said, all we're asking for is for these people. And before this violent stuff started happening, there had been a number of protests in which they stood outside with signs and they were using empty plastic jugs as like drums. And they were dancing and they were singing. And they were saying that they were not they were not apartheid, that they were not stateless people, that they came from certain countries and that they had deserved a right to migrate through Mexico.
Wow.
And they come in throngs of hundreds and even thousands and expect that a detention facility and processing and resources are going to be available for all of them at one time, as they have ridiculously been demanding this entire time of Mexico and of the United States. Why did you all decide to go to one border and one location? Is it because that's where your coyote is going to cross you?
Exactly.
Maybe, but you should have thought about that. Or maybe your coyotes should have thought about that before you decided to go on this journey. And so, of course, the coyote handlers from Pueblos Sin Fronteras, they decide, you know what? We're going to organize these folks. And in that interview that he gave, that is tweeted about there, he said, these folks, they just want traveling papers so that they can go work in another state, or so that they can go north if that's where they're going. Whatever they plan on doing, you can't keep them here. It's disgusting, and it's an embarrassment to Mexico that these people are being kept here. Families and children are being kept here against their will, and that the Mexican government doesn't give them their papers. I mean, come on. But there was just 2 semis full of undocumented people that were taken out of the back of semis that we saw roll through Oaxaca a couple of weeks ago, and they were allowed to go ahead and migrate through the country with an escort of federal police. So why are these Africans being kept here? And he made the distinction that the 2 semis were full of Central Americans. And so then he said in the same article, in an interview that he was giving to the press, that if the Mexican authorities were not going to give them the papers, there were going to have to be actions taken. And by actions, I suppose they meant this nonsense that we just saw, because that's exactly what happened next.
Yep.
And here you see in the Jonathan Lee Crone tweet that Irineo Mujica and a lawyer from a local immigration law firm, I guess, were organizing the African migrants for a federal court case, asking for new travel documents to be issued. So, where are these folks getting all the money for their lawsuits and for their actions and for their organizing work? They'll tell you none of them get a dime.
Yeah, and they're just like, sorry about that, but yeah, and the front that they're setting up, they're very similar to Standing Rock, because Standing Rock, again, we go back to that because that was the playbook for what's going on, and they're bringing them in, and the whole idea that, and all the stuff that's happened, if you've been following Oscar's shows and Cindy's shows, you've seen that Mexico's been trying a bunch of different things, one, to keep people safe and treat them humanely, but the migrants have been taking actions that are violent, that they're hurting people, that they're breaking laws, that they're refusing help, that, when they were handing out, papers for people to be able to work in Mexico, not good enough. The food wasn't good enough. And now we have people moving in from other countries, and it's just a powder keg down there and they're all going to the border, a lot of them, Tijuana, and it's just like cause more mayhem there, just when things were a little bit low. And there's a lot of problems and more problems to come.
And more problems to come. And you know who else was advocating for the African migrants traveling through Mexico? Why, it was none other than Pitaya Queen, the LGBTQIA caravan leader that we've talked about in various shows in the past. Here she is in a post from 2018 talking about the cause of the African migrants and why they have to migrate. You know, they set it up. The argument is XYZ. That's what the argument is going to be. So that's why they have to migrate. That's the reason why they're migrating. And then we're just supposed to all parrot that when they start migrating in an irregular fashion, without papers, committing violence along the way, destroying property, hurting people, etc., etc. Doesn't matter. Now, I want to remind folks that Nicole Ramos posted that article that accused Ivan Riebling and Evan Duke of being investigated by the FBI for trafficking weapons to Antifa. And Nicole Ramos made a comment on it. She had to comment about it,
I suppose.
And she says that she kind of wondered if federal defenders were laughing at the idea that this should even be investigated because, you know, guns travel, you know, south and drugs travel north.
Yeah.
But at the bottom of this Twitter thread where she talks about this article written by Wendy Fry of the San Diego Union Tribune, she talks about me. She talks about my shows. And if you just go to the next slide, it shows the last one. It says, But what do I know? I mean, apparently a radio show host in North Dakota bragged on her show about reporting the tip to the FBI, she means. And if the FBI is taking tips from that woman, God help federal law enforcement, she also believes I'm public enemy number 7. Super dangerous. All 114 pounds of me shouting about the rule of law. Well, no.
You know, and you tried to interview her when she was in San Diego, and she's like, nope, don't have time. Gotta go. You know, it's going to be a fair interview. And, you know, and she, in fact, in that session, they wouldn't let us film or record. You know, we did obtain some recordings that, you know, that were made, you know, but we were not allowed to do anything like that. Then we saw her walking down the escalator, going down the escalator right in front of us, and she looked really, really upset. And she was, you know, walking, and she saw us standing there. And, you know, a few hours later, we went to Enclave Clerical, and supposedly she was inside there. And she accused us of harassing her and stalking her. And it's just like, hey, we're just going to the shelter that you just talked about at a conference. And so she didn't come out like she did in Ben's and Oscar's video. She didn't come out and start flying off the handle at us. She just stayed hidden inside and made threats from inside. And we were just standing outside looking at the windows, looking at the doors, and people inside, and they were scurrying all over the place, running up and down. They were filming us. And as Cindy said, there were migrants outside that Cindy talked to and interviewed, you know, and did interviews with them that basically said, we didn't get any help from these people at all. In fact, it was common for us to go to the shelters and talk to people, and they would show us papers that they got from their education, but there was no lawyer helps, and these people need lawyers. I mean, one guy, and we covered this in the show earlier that we were with Oscar, I mean, he had a case file and everything that he was just supposed to check on to see his case and then destroy all the paperwork once he crosses the border and goes to court. You know, so these are really shady dealings that these people are doing. And
they don't want to be questioned about it.
That's right.
And if you question them, that's harassment. That's a threat. You made them feel threatened. You're putting their life at risk. It turns ridiculous really, really quick. It turns ridiculous to the point that you see that they're up to something other, which is covering. Did you see the way that Pendeja for Trump reacted when the Mexican news asked her for an identification?
Yeah, no kidding.
You want to see it? She looked exactly like Nicole Ramos. Exactly like Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they react to being asked a simple question. Like, dude, just show some ID and it'll be fine. You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. You live here, right?
Like you can prove that, right? What do you have to hide?
Yeah.
And that's exactly why Nicole Ramos reacts that way. Because liars are not going, ultimately, you're not going to make them show you because they can't. That's why. And if that's uncovered, then, you know, the jig is up. So Nicole Ramos does fake marriages. And in this post, she posted about the marriages they were doing for, in this example, 5 LGBTQ couples at Enclave Caracol. And it was done by the Unitarian Universalist ministers who traveled to Tijuana to support the caravan. By the way, who was it behind the funding of No More Deaths? That group with Scott Warren, the case that we saw in Arizona that is going to be retried very soon against Scott Warren, in which they removed the conspiracy charges which involved Pueblo Sin Fronteras and Irineo Mujica. That Universalist church.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, here's a marriage certificate. Here's one of the marriage certificates that they did. Oh, by the way, go back to the fake marriages, the picture that she posted, because there's pictures in there.
Okay, one moment.
That's the one. It's fake marriages. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I scroll down there. Like I said, there's pictures in there. And you can see the marriages taking place.
Oh,
see?
okay.
Those are the marriages that she posted about. And she's in one of these pictures.
Ah.
So they were there. They were like witnesses to the fake marriages, and they had fake marriage certificates. And they were telling the migrants in this marriage certificate you're going to look at next. This is one that was provided to me by the pastor at the shelter, Agape shelter that we visited when we were in Tijuana. And that the migrants that are listed here as being married were told didn't have any legal significance because it's just a piece of paper that they printed out, folks.
Wow.
And that these migrants were told by lawyers from Al Otro Lado that this was to be used as part of their claim for asylum. That this document should be entered into their asylum claim because their partner, which they're not technically or legally married to in Mexico or anywhere else, has a good asylum claim or a chance of an asylum claim, but they don't. But then if they got married, then
Oh, yeah.
then the same credible fear that applies to you applies to your spouse, applies to your kids. Here's a picture from one of the fake marriages. I come with proof. You heard her deny. And she said, they're not fake marriages. They're ceremonies. It doesn't matter if you... It matters if you're coaching the migrants to use them on asylum claims to United States. It does matter. It does matter. And that's exactly what the pastor said the migrants said. They filed a complaint against Al Otro Lado in Mexico. There was an Amber Alert issued when Nicole Ramos took a child. She works alongside River Doherty and many of the volunteers that were involved in the kidnapping of a child named Carlos from the same Agape shelter, who the activists working and volunteering for Al Otro Lados provided drugs to, along with other migrants at that shelter. These folks also helped plan the wedding with one of their volunteers, a woman that is named Sofia Maria de Loreto Churi, Sofia Marie, who started a fund for the asylum seekers and worked directly with Nicole Ramos and Al Otro Lado, and also for Congresswoman Nanette Barragan. Wait, is that the Congresswoman that went to the border and filmed people and yelled at Kirsten Nielsen and helped the LGBTQIA caravan that was at the Carita shelter run by Mark Lane and all of their media cohorts and all of their friends in the Border Support Network that are American con artists that helped cross Maria Mesa and her 5 kids after Paloma for Trump was a threat to her life in this elaborate media scheme that involved members of Congress at the border. Yes, that Nanette Barragan. And of course, this person who worked on Nanette Barragan's campaign, Sofia Marie de Loreto Chudy, was helping plan weddings with Al Otro Lado. Here she posts in the Asylum Seekers Relief Fund a picture of the, what is that thing they wear on their head?
The veil.
Thank you.
The veil.
The
And
veil
some
and some
champagne
confetti or
and stuff, and the fixings for a celebration.
Right. There were many pictures where they were planning weddings that she took. I want to have you listen for yourself, though, because nothing is better than their own words coming out of their mouth holes. Here is one of the many volunteers of Al Otro Lado being interviewed by none other than Oscar El Blue Ramirez of Border Network News, saying that, well, first of all, he was filming the people at the Chaparral border entry point and narrating what he was seeing from a distance. As you can see from this video, he's standing, what would you say, 50, 60, maybe 100 feet away?
Oh, no, about 60 feet.
60 feet, yeah, roughly, from what it looks like. And all of a sudden, you can't even make people's faces out at this distance or anything. All of a sudden, a woman who clearly has an English accent, she very gingerly begins to question him and tries to tell him he's not allowed to film in a public space, because she tries to use the same line used by all of these con artists. You're putting the migrants at risk. They're the ones putting the migrants at risk because they're working with organized crime and they're working with smugglers and traffickers. But they love to tell anyone that comes close enough with the camera to film them, and they're volunteers, in quotes, doing this dirty criminal work. You can't film us because you're putting the lives of the migrants at risk. Don't film me. Don't film me because you're putting my life at risk. But this volunteer working with these crooked lawyers is then accused when he turns the table on her and says, wait a minute. You're not going to tell me what to do in my own country. I'm in Mexico. I'm going to film. We're in public here. I have every right to film. By the way, who are you? Let me interview you right now. Who are you and who are you with? And she's like, I'm with Al Otro Lado. And he's like, oh, great. He's like, she's like, have you heard of us? And he's like, yeah, I have heard of you. And you guys are doing some terrible stuff over here in Mexico. In my country, you're doing terrible things. You're creating fake marriages and telling people to put themselves at risk of committing fraud in an asylum claim with the U.S. government, that they could land those people in jail, in federal prison for years. Well, he didn't say that, but he said, you're doing these horrible things. I just elaborated as to what he means, because that is exactly what we discovered when we found that these people were being coached to use these fake marriage certificates not registered legally anywhere, except maybe in the imaginary minds of these people that attended and took pictures, and how they documented that they told the migrants to use these images for their asylum claims. And so they wouldn't be separated as families when they got into the detention facilities. And they admit that they were doing that. He's like, you guys were making fake marriages. And she goes, they weren't fake marriages.
No, she said, we don't do that anymore.
And the next thing she said was, what he said, yes, they are. And we have proof. And I just showed it to you, okay? I just showed it to you. Every time he accuses these people of that, they go, where's the proof? Where's the proof? I've shown you the proof. He's shown the proof. We're not going to carry it or tattoo it on our back so that every time one of these people demand it, we pull it out and go, there it is. Are you satisfied? Now answer the damn question, because they never want to answer the damn question. But he catches this woman off guard as she is like, we're not doing that anymore. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Roll tape. Let's hear this. It's hilarious. As only Oscar could have done. He just catches her off guard.
I'm stopping them.
He's showing migrants lined up.
They're holding up paperwork and sheets. I think that we have a person from Russia right here. I don't know what is he doing over here. In a few moments I will go ask. This is the line for the political asylum people. Hello.
¿Le puedo hablar con usted?
Sí, dígame.
Usted, bueno, sé que usted está con la prensa y está haciendo su trabajo, pero es
She's not in with the
un
media.
lugar muy delicado y para muchas personas es muy peligroso que estén
¿Ciudadana
grabando.
de Estados Unidos?
Sí.
It's very dangerous for you to film for a lot of these people. That's what she's saying. He says this is a public place.
Sí, ya sé, pero
Discúlpeme, señorita.
es que hemos
Excuse
tenido
me.
casos en que personas
I have a
han,
right to film you.
¿Te puedo hacer una entrevista?
A lot of people here are like
No,
put into danger. And he goes, can
You're from the
I ask
United
you some
States, right?
I'm
questions?
from the U.S., yeah.
So you're working with which organization?
Al Otro Lado?
Al Otro Lado?
Have you heard of us?
Yes, I heard of you guys. Come on. You guys are doing some bad stuff over here. Yes.
We're giving people
No, you're
legal
not.
information.
You just made a fake marriage and I have proof of it. I have proof of it, of that fake marriage. I have proof of that fake marriage.
It's not a fake marriage. It was a ceremony.
Yeah.
And we've stopped doing that.
Well, yes, you guys are doing that to cross illegally to the United States. You're hurting the sovereignty of the United States and you're hurting us.
All right.
Do you understand? These are the type of lawyers, people. These are the lawyers right here. These right here, I just evidenced them, and I just talked to them. They're right there, there are four of them. There are four of them, right there. Wow. She immediately went away, and she wants me to do whatever she wants in my territory and in my country. It's not happening.
He's like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
He's so mad. He's like, oh, man.
That's why they started to call him a fascist. That's why they started to call, because they don't want anyone to expose what they're really doing. But I went and confronted this woman. She refused to talk to me. I think she's terrified of talking to me. She also refused to do an interview in Tijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know she was in Enclave Caracol, but she told people that I went there to harass her. No, I went to a public place, stood outside of a building, and interviewed people. I didn't even know she was there. But I did question her right before I went to Tijuana. And this is a picture I took of her at the ABS conference. And Amy Sutton was there to ask her also. And the woman next to her is a lawyer, an undocumented lawyer living in the United States, working with Border Angels, that fantastic organization we talked about, involved in this whole big smuggling operation with narco ties. They did the narco wedding. Mm-hmm. Dulce Garcia next to her. And
Yeah, and the other woman is a person who actually is running the conference, so it's a moderator. And again, this is where we were. This is when we were at the conference, and they wouldn't let us record and wouldn't let us film, wouldn't let us take pictures. In fact, they were inconsistent because there were people standing up filming, and I'm like, what about that guy? And they would ignore him. What about that guy over there taking pictures? And they're just sitting there looking at me the whole time. It's like, nope, you can't film. I guess I was a person that was targeted not to be able to film. Mm-hmm. I was wearing my press badge, and I also paid a bunch of money to get into the conference, too, because it wasn't free. It was like, and we were invited there, or Cindy was invited there to speak, and she had to pay conference fees to get in, too. So it was like, it cost us a whole lot of money to get in. And so I just saw the inconsistency, but then these were the two that were speaking for this specific event we went to.
People protected them. Like if you breathed in their general direction, they would melt. And so they did not allow us to ask more than one question. And she didn't actually have to answer it directly after or give us a chance to follow up with anything. They yelled at me when I tried to clarify my question because she wasn't answering it when she did start speaking. Fortunately, though, Amy Sutton asked a question, very simple and straightforward, about whether or not they had a license to practice law in Mexico. And she says very clearly, nope, we only take clients in the United States. In Mexico, we do workshops to tell the people how horrible the United States experience is going to be for them, what to expect, how horrible it is. Mm-hmm. Okay? Folks, I really need you to hear this. I really need you to share this program to groups. Do it right now so that people can hear this recording of this lying woman in her own words. In her own words. Amy knows exactly what happened, how it all went down. She was right there. She is my witness. I want you to hear the words of this woman saying, I don't do that. That's not what we do. We don't do that. We give informational workshops. Listen closely. I hope you guys are sharing this. It's very important for people to record these things and have them and share them. Let's hold these people accountable. Right now, they're running around chanting that they've won. Believe me, the Trump administration is not going to let sleeping dogs lie. There's going to be a response. There's going to be appeals. They're going to keep going. But in the meantime, these crooked lawyers groups are going to keep putting, blocks in the way of this administration so that they can keep criming. Listen to her. Here's that clip.
This is for Nicole. I think you had said that you lived in Tijuana, correct?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you can practice law in both Mexico and in California.
And with regard to my license to practice in Mexico, I don't practice law in Mexico.
So it's not considered legal advice then?
Right. It's legal orientation and know your rights training. We do pick up some cases, but once people are in the U.S.
Okay. So you're licensed in California then?
I'm licensed in New York, and so because it's federal law, then you can practice wherever.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
I did.
What'd she say?
She said that I don't practice law in Mexico. And she asked if she was, she had a license in Arizona. She said, no, I have a license in New York. But once it's a federal case, and you can basically go anywhere and practice a federal case. But she also said that she doesn't do any practice any law in Mexico, and it's all educational, training, that sort of thing. But they pick up a case every once in a while, she said. I'm not sure which cases they pick up.
And the United States.
Yeah, in the United States. And she said, and it was a reference to Mexico, that they pick up a few cases in Mexico.
In the United States. No, she said, we pick up a few cases, but only in the United States.
Okay. That's important.
That's the distinction. It's very, very important. Let's listen to it one more time, okay?
All right.
I want to make sure everybody hears what exactly she said. These are her own words. Here's Nicole Ramos.
This is for Nicole. I think you had said that you lived in Tijuana, correct?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you can practice law in both Mexico and in California.
And with regard to my license to practice in Mexico, I don't practice law in Mexico.
So it's not considered legal advice then?
Right. It's legal orientation and know your rights training. We do pick up some cases, but once people are in the U.S.
Okay. So you're licensed in California then?
I'm licensed in New York, and so because it's federal law, then you can practice wherever.
Okay. Did you hear it that time?
Yep, I did.
Once they're in the U.S.
United States, yep.
So how did I get a hold of these contracts in Mexico? Can you answer that question, Nicole? Because here's these contracts that were signed. This first one is signed by Lindsay Schenck. This one is signed by one of the representatives of Al Otro Lado. And it is a contract in Mexico for legal services. It's written in Spanish. It says contract for legal consultation at the top. It is signed at the bottom by a representative of the law firm Al Otro Lado. Representative. Here's another one by Jill Stanton. Same deal. If you look, this one, which is was left blank and given to the customer that way, was signed by a lawyer, a representative named Jill Stanton. There's the name of the client at the bottom. This third one was signed by another representative of Al Otro Lado. 2, by Sarah Borsodi, representative of Al Otro Lado, Borsodi. Borsodi. These are contracts made in Spanish for legal services in Mexico. So what was that you said about not practicing law in Mexico?
Yeah.
You want to explain this to me?
No, that's why she's so mad.
She doesn't want to explain.
Doesn't want to explain nothing.
Nope. And I want to show you, I want to remind you again who she was fundraising with in the Border Support Network. Let's take a look. This post by Wiaka Eagleman, one of the people that brought us Standing Rock here in North Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
The nephew of Joy Braun of the Indigenous Environmental Network. Posted this post that shares all of the different organizations the Border Support Network is funding. And it was reposted from Digital Smoke Signals of Myron Dewey and his wife, Deborah Parker. You can see if you scroll there that the first organization listed is Birdie's organization. The second one is Al Otro Lado. And they talk about how they're at Enclave Caracol. And they even give you the address.
Wow.
So what are the volunteers and the people working with this organization like? Well, we know River Doherty helped to kidnap a child, and as I said, was part of the group of migrants that gave drugs to the children and the migrants. Also, this guy, Mitchell Verderer, who, as you know, was arrested for harassing Oscar El Blue Ramirez. And also assaulting another American blogger that went to Mexico to investigate. Here he is giving instructions to the migrants like it's totally okay what he's doing in Mexico.
Es una formulario en inglés, ¿ok? Sí, entonces, si tengo unas preguntas. Ok, si quieres, la gente allá en el clave Caracol, ellos pueden ayudarte. Además,
¿Dónde es la clave Caracol?
¿No sabes dónde está? Okay, mira, ella, hey, do you have any maps to Caracol? I'm telling them about the 589.
No, but I can go get them.
Yeah, go get them. Okay. Además, yo puedo ayudarte. Okay. Yo creo que la mejor cosa.
Duke.
Yeah.
Why does he talk like the Muppet from Sesame Street, Ernie?
I don't know. Why does he talk?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, some of us, we can't formulate Spanish vowels, and to pronounce the words, we have to move our tongue a little differently than we're used to, and we're speaking English. So sometimes we sound like cartoon characters, But he was basically instructing the people to go over there, fill out paperwork, and he's like, we need maps, and then she's like, one of his helpers or
okay, guys,
accessories, I guess, would to go get a map for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's see who else supports these folks. Why? Here's a Border Support Network post of Evan Duke, in which you see that he's posting about Al Otro Lado. And he says, from the Border Support Network, which he started, that legal observers are needed by Al Otro Lado. This guy was just beating people at a riot in
2 weeks
Portland.
ago, yeah.
A couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is the people with whom they roll. They have no problems hanging out with people that have been arrested, that assault, that lie. They're dangerous. The cops are investigating all of them, but we're supposed to believe that they're human rights defenders.
Yeah.
Please. Al Otro Lado volunteers, including Mitch Verderer and River Doherty and some other girl, assaulted Roger Ogden of Patriot Fire. In this screen capture, he posted about it and said that on June 14th, a few days after Trump announced the agreement that was made between Mexico and the United States about not giving the Mexicans tariffs if they decreased border crossing, he said he went down to the Mexican side of the pedestrian crossing at El Chaparral, where you just saw Oscar videotaping, and that he was attacked by Al Otro Lado con artivists and mercenary activists. He said this is where those who want to claim asylum wait for their number to be called. He said there was a couple hundred people there. There seemed to be more Africans and Central Americans on the day he was there. That he was attacked by two members of the extreme leftist group, Al Otro Lado, because he didn't like them. He didn't like him videotaping them. He was physically attacked and had to pepper spray them. But not before Mitchell Verderer spat on him and broke a chopping board on him.
Yeah.
You can see that in the video attached to this. I played it in a previous show, so I'm not going to play it again. But I just wanted to remind these people that are watching who Al Otro Lado and Pueblo Sin Fronteras hangs out with. Because I was shocked when I went to Standing Rock. I was shocked afterwards that one of the lead lawyers on the lawsuit against Trump turned out to be a serial rapist and a con artist that pretended to be an Indian whose whole family line had been doing this for generations and assaulting people sexually.
Yeah.
And I was like blown away by it because he was not even close to an anomaly. It felt like, it seemed like a lot of the people thrust into the limelight were past criminals, many of them sexual deviants that had previous sex with minors. I don't know how else to say. They were pedos, lots and lots of pedos in Standing Rock, and sexual assaulters and rapists and drug dealers and pimps and a whole bunch of other things, and kidnappers and cop impersonators and oh my God, and fake veterans and all sorts of nasty, horrible people. And I thought, How is it possible that so many of these people ended up as security and in the limelight and in the movie and in the documentary being celebrated as heroes until something really, really horrible happened and the law caught up to them finally? How did that happen? And none of these other people noticed. And then I looked at them and they were also these messed up people. I thought, oh, they're all like that. That's why nobody cares. Well, not all of them. Many of you folks have figured this out along the way, especially those of you who've been watching me since Standing Rock. But it's why I start to look at these folks in this way. I'm like, who are you working? Who's Gaba Cortez? Who's Hugo Castro of the Border Angels? Who's his boss, Enrique Morones? Who's all the people? You look a little deeper. Look a little deeper because you're going to find things that are darker and darker. And, Al Otro Lado was supported by Cultura Migrante, a platform for said Hugo Castro of the Border Angels, which I've talked about extensively on my shows, including recently when I was talking about how their Playas shelter was entered by Pendeja for Trump with ease. Mm-hmm. Here is a picture from his page, on Facebook, where they're doing that march. There's his wife, Gaba Cortez, the documentary filmmaker, blah, 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 marching next to them. Yeah. But remember who else was there?
There's Nicole Ramos in the center.
Nicole Ramos is in the center. Gaba Cortez is next to her, but Pitaya Queen was there as well, if you recall.
That's right.
And Alex Mensing, was there as well. Here he is with Irineo Mujica. And of course, you see they're all working together. Nicole Ramos, Irineo Mujica, Alex Mensing, Pueblo Sin Frontera, Centroamérica. You've got all of the gang in one spot, and they're always working together. And of course, Nicole and Pitaya talked early on about the fact that when Nicole was recruiting volunteers in October, almost as soon as the big caravan showed up in Tijuana, she let her know in the comments of this post where Nicole requests volunteers that she's going to see her in November. And she's probably one of the first posters on this Facebook post.
Oh, yeah.
See you in November. And she says, I'm here with open arms and an exhausted face. And they worked together, and they worked to bring the LGBTQIA caravan, which they posted requests for funding first, and they moved into the United States first, and whose asylum claims being accepted, they have been celebrating very openly, because LGBTQIA and transgender people that request asylum in the United States have a higher chance, have a higher percentage of having their claims accepted, because they do come from vulnerable populations. And of course, these people exploit every opportunity, right? It's sad because there are some transgender people that really are fleeing and that should be protected. But it makes me really angry that those spots are being taken by people that are, the highest bidder, that are working with human smugglers that get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, that exploit and use and put these vulnerable populations of migrants for money, because they don't do it for free. No matter how many stories they tell you about their lack of shoes. And in this Nicole video screen capture, you will see that it's right after that Pitaya Queen April 29 picture. Did we show the April 29 picture? Yeah, we already did. Go up. No, the other direction, please. Nope, the other direction, please. Yes, one more. One more up. There you go. Nope, one more up. One more. There you go. That one. If you post that, please. Pitaya Queen also posts Pueblo Sin Fronteras content. She's constantly in the loop, working with them and Nicole Ramos. They're not separate. Is what I'm saying is they're not separate.
Okay.
Because when the hammer comes down, When they go to jail, when people start getting put in jail, these people are going to try to distance themselves from each other, saying, you know, we're not Pueblo Sin Fronteras, we're all Otro Lado. No, you're all working together. I can't distinguish lawyer from activist. I can't distinguish because they're the same thing. Or media person from activist because they're the same thing, and they're all working together with the smuggling operation. And they're making money. We know this. So here is a video from the Mexican media, which I will translate to you from Noticioso, where they talk more extensively about the history that they have known about this Pitaya queen and the smuggling operation that she's involved with. Noticioso.
En Tijuana existe una asociación
There's an
civil
association
llamada
in
El
Mexico
Jardín de las Mariposas.
Called
Sus fundadores son
the
Yolanda Rocha y su hijo Jaime
Jardín de las
Marín.
Mariposas.
Ambos
These are the
son
two
ciudadanos
founders, mother and
americanos.
son. They're
La
Americans.
caravana LGTB que ya
The
todos
LGBTQIA
conocemos
caravan
por
that
sus
came,
escándalos con los vecinos de
that we all
playas de
know about
Tijuana,
because of their scandals
tenía en un inicio
in playas
planeado
de
llegar
Tijuana,
al albergue Jardín de
were
las
supposed to
Mariposas,
come to this shelter
lo que le significaría a este albergue
of the
una
butterflies,
fuerte inyección de dinero
which
del
would have
gobierno
injected a lot of
y
money
particulares.
for this shelter.
Ahí en el Jardín de las Mariposas ya
In the
los
garden
estaban
of the
esperando.
butterflies, they were waiting for the
Pero las cosas no
LGBTQIA
salieron
caravan
como
to
lo
show up.
esperaban,
But things
pues
didn't
esta
turn out as
caravana de
expected.
homosexuales que
This
acompañan a
homosexual
Roberto Flote
caravan
Jr. prefirió
that
dormir
was
en una
led
cómoda
by
residencia
Roberto
que
Nacay
cobra
Flote Jr.
$500 el día.
decided they would
Ya
rather
el
stay
Jardín de las
at a
Mariposas
very
ni las
expensive villa
gracias
that cost
les fueron a
$500 a
dar.
day.
El origen de toda la
And they
información que ya
didn't
conocemos sobre Roberto Flote Jr.
patronize
alias Pitaya
the
Queen es el
shelter
Jardín de las
for
Mariposas.
gay people
Ellos
at
muy
the
sospechosamente filtraron
butterfly
toda esa
garden.
información cuando la caravana migrante los cambió por Roberto Flote Jr. Cambiaron la hospitalidad del albergue
They
por los
they
cafés de
exchanged the
Starbucks, la
hospitality
elegante residencia en playas,
for
la ropa
Starbucks,
especial, entre muchos otros
expensive
lujos
houses,
sospechosos. A título
lots
personal,
of
me parece muy
parties,
sospechoso que esta asociación
alcohol.
civil que recibe fondos de gobierno y de privados
They get
decida
government
declarar en
funding
contra
and
de
private
Roberto
funding.
Flote Jr.
They're
alias
led
Pitaya
by
Queen
Pitaya Queen,
hasta que él les
Roberto
arrebató su caravana LGTB.
and they
O sea,
he took
les
over
arrebató
the
su
LGBTQIA
chequecito al
caravan,
portador.
and he
Y
took
digo
it
esto
away
porque
from
verán a continuación
the
un video donde el
garden
Jardín de las
of the
Mariposas hace declaraciones muy
butterflies.
fuertes.
And there's a
Más que
video
declaraciones
in
fuertes
which
me parecen una pequeña
the garden
ventana que
of
se abre
butterflies
para ver todas las
accuses
porquerías que suceden
the
dentro de
LGBTQIA
estas asociaciones
caravan leader,
LGTB que incluso
and
involucran a
they
menores de edad.
uncover all of
Aquí les dejo
the
estas declaraciones que hicieron hace
disgusting
un par de días
things that go
contra
on
Roberto Flote Jr. alias
within
Pitaya
these
Queen,
these
los integrantes
organizations.
de Jardín de las Mariposas en Tijuana.
This is the press
Saquen
conference.
ustedes sus propias conclusiones. Escuchen
You
nada
can
más qué
make your own
porquerías
conclusions.
hacen
Listen
estos homosexuales,
what these homosexuals are doing,
migrantes que
these
exigen
migrants
se
that
respeten
demand
sus derechos
that their
humanos
human rights be
contra
respected,
menores de edad.
what
El
they've been
noticioso
accused
cierra
of
el
doing against minors. It's not fair that from Central American, that is not, she's not Central American, she's actually an American, would pretend to take advantage of them, because that's what she's doing. Last year, when they came, two children, 14 and 15 years old, from one from Guatemala and one from El Salvador, and they were having sex with the trans women, the adult ones, and they had STDs. The children got STDs because they were having sex and they were being trafficked with the adults. 15, 16-year-old girls saying that they already had jobs to go and work in Florida and Miami, Florida as prostitutes. They were, they believed that they were going to have jobs over there, and they were. A lot of them ended up getting deported back to their countries of origin. But even among them, they, they're not traveling with a parent or, a family member, adult family member. So, yeah. And this is, I think, the same video. It's just a minute clip of that. And I don't know if it's a different clip. Let's just play a little bit of it and see. I just want to make sure that we covered the allegations made by organizations that she had contact with. I did interview one of these people, and she gave me a video clip in which Nakai Flote was Roberto Nakai Flote, alias OJ Pitaya or Pitaya Queen, was arguing with the manager of this shelter, the Garden of the Butterflies, and she was in partial undress, so I never played the video, but in it, I was able to confirm what the manager told me and what the manager talked about in this press conference, which was that they were consuming drugs. And Pitaya says, so what if I was consuming drugs? I wasn't shoving them down anyone else's throat. And so anyway, it was very telling that she admitted it, right?
Yeah.
These people have no shame. They have no shame. And I wanted you to hear just a little more from this clip.
De hecho, al año pasado,
Yeah, it is the same clip. When they came last year, there was, this is the allegations about the STDs. So not only were they trafficking children sexually, they were making them ill. These children contracted STDs because they were trafficked, and the leader of them is Pitaya Queen. That's the allegations being made here, but that's not all. Okay? Did any of those people look like me? Did they? No. I was not there.
Yeah, that's right.
All those people were Mexicans in Mexico talking about stuff that went on there. And Pitaya bashed that center, bashed those people because they attacked her in that press conference. And Bertie Gutierrez and Border Support Network people got their wires crossed, didn't get the message in time. These people burn bridges so fast, they start fighting with each other over who they're supposed to be supporting and when they burn bridges and commit crimes. Look at this post where Bertie is thanking the women of the LGBTQIA shelter, the Garden of the Butterflies, and that they raised money to pay the electric and water bills for this organization. And they were very grateful to them for all of their support and help. And they were going to do another fundraiser to support this shelter. And that they would post it later. And OJ Pitaya went wild. They treated the LGBTIQ members like crap. Why not donate to us that usually do the work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she wants all the money. They always say that.
Yep.
We need the funds because some of our members are homeless. Yeah, that's why you're staying at a villa. It costs $500 a day.
Yeah.
Instead of staying at this shelter because they wouldn't let you use drugs inside of a rehab facility. That is the ultimate hypocrisy. The ultimate hypocrisy. There's more. She says, why not donate to Caritas, the shelter that she went to, where they, I guess, wrote her a letter so that Nicole Ramos could cross her and these other women into the United States and request asylum because their lives were in danger. They're going to be killed because somebody tried to burn a mattress over a door at that shelter.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I sure do.
Okay. And, by the way, she keeps fighting with her about this. If you scroll to the right, Bertie Gutierrez replies. Nope, the other right. And she's like, wow. As I recall, I asked you for information for Caritas and that message, and I expressed that we wanted to help. First, you said you would get me the number to someone that we could talk to from there, but then you didn't. You referred me to Hockenberry Sphinx, and to date, he never accepted my friend request. Yeah, Bertie, because she burned that bridge too. She took his platform. She stole it. I looked for a Facebook page for Caritas and couldn't find one, so I contacted a friend of mine from Tijuana, and she referred me to El Jardín de las Mariposas and informed me some of the members of the caravan also stayed there, so I did find their Facebook group and contacted them, and they told us about their necessities in paying the water and electricity. Our only intent was to help. See, but they cut each other off. They cut each other off help and support from places that do help migrants, that do help LGBTQIA people, but they don't care really about the migrants or the LGBTQIA people. They care about being worshipped personally and with funds. And if they don't get from these people the ultimate sacrifice, and I mean the ultimate, we're going to have sex with children in this building, and we're going to do drugs here, and you're going to let us do whatever the hell we want. Otherwise, we will cut all support from you. We do what we want. We crime how we want, and we crime as much as we want.
Exactly.
That's how they play. That's why they don't like to be called out. And Pitaya had a lot to say after the shows I did about her. Same as the Sofia Marie de Loreto Chudi. She made a post almost identical to this, in where she goes point by point, parsing hairs, embellishing and making up lies, in which she basically complains about the things I said about her, and how it's all slander and lies because she didn't say the thing that she said. And of course, it's all not true, and I'm about to show you that. This pendeja probably thought that I wasn't going to come back around to confront all her stupid lies, but I don't work for you, pimp.
Yep, exactly.
I don't. You're used to all of your people that you are accused of trafficking and prostituting to jump when you say jump. But that's not how I do over here. So I'm going to show you, and you don't have to leave this up the whole time, but I am going to read this on and off as I show you information.
Okay.
Let's go back. So she set the hounds on me after the show that I did about her. And I think I had done a couple of shows by the time she decided she was going to call me out on her page. She actually deleted this post and then edited it and reposted it.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. It was a while back. And I've been, collecting information on you, girlfriend. So don't worry. That's why I took my time to make sure that when I told you to sit down and take several seats, that you were going to stay down. So she says, I see many of you who follow A Mexican Crossing. Notice how none of these cowards use my whole name or use the full name of the show. Because these pendejas, like Pendeja for Trump and OJ, they don't want you to go and see the show. They don't want you to watch one of my shows and see the evidence that I bring you, the receipts that I show you, because they don't have anything to counter that, the facts. They don't want to be questioned. They run and scream and claim that you're putting their lives at risk because you asked a dang question. She says, help me in demanding that they stop the stalking and harassment. Why? Because I did shows showing evidence against you here in the United States, in Mexico. So you want people to attack funders of the Awesome Grant, by the way, funds an LGBTQIA show on our station. So this pendeja who says she's an advocate for LGBTQIA people attacks the only LGBTQIA show on the radio in the Red River Valley in the Midwest por sus huevos. Right? Because she's like, you know what? She's not really down for the causes. I reiterate, she's down for worship. It's her first, her second, and her third. It's I, me, mine. They will even fight each other if you don't bow down to her say so. When she says, burn that person to the ground, they're burnt. So she says that the woman in the screenshot, she says, you don't get to put a trans woman's life at risk and expect to still receive funding. Okay. How did I put a trans woman's life at risk? By doing a show exposing you. Notice how these people, I told you, they recur to saying, something bad is going to happen to me. You know, a lot of people like this end up dead or they commit suicide. Notice the pattern of behavior. My life is at risk. My life is being put at risk. My life is being threatened. There's a pattern part of it is the narcissism and the crazy, but part of it is also a pattern of victimhood, so that people who simply want to, their, protection, their caring, their kindness, their desire to protect others that kicks in is like, who hurt you? What do I got to do? That's what they are going for. But it's bunk. It's bunk. And she goes on to say that the woman in the screenshot, which is truly a Mexican crossing line, who is reporting this page radio show called the Mexican Crossing Lines, 88.1 FM, Fargo, Moorhead. Oh, notice she says a Mexican crossing. Not a Mexican Crossing Lines.
A Mexican Crossing.
A Mexican Crossing. Never says my name. Not my name is on here. Continues to report conspiracy-like theories. No. I post evidence, pendeja. I got receipt after receipt after receipt. And she says that I am putting her life at risk once again. When she edited this, she said she took that part out about how I'm putting her life at risk because she sounds like a pendeja and a loca too. And she says the intention of this post is to clarify comments made by me. So then here's the points that she talked about. If you want to go back, pause it on the screen when I put it up and you can look at it. But I'm just going to tell you the 4 points that she makes on here. 1, I never said I am a Central American asylum seeker. And then she says, if you'd actually asked people who have worked with me, advocates and immigrants alike, know exactly who I am, Harvard PhD candidate, you did not out me because I never was in the closet. I actually grew up in Mexico for 15 years of my life and my family is immigrant to the U.S. Your reporting did nothing to inform the public. You spread hate and ignorance. Stop lying to your listeners to make a coin. Mentirosa. Each time that she finishes a paragraph, she calls me a liar. Me a liar. So let me address point number 1. Okay? Hold on. I got to get my glitter on. Let me address these points right now. Okay? So we're going to come back to this, guys. We're going to come back to this in a minute. Okay? I never said you were a Central American migrant either, pendeja. I said that you allowed people to think you were, like a lot of the escorts, I call them coyotes, working in Pueblos Sin Fronteras, like you. You allowed the media, you allowed other people, especially American media, to believe you were a refugee traveling with the migrants, in particular with the LGBTQIA caravan. And the people in Mexico did believe it. And for the most part, they didn't know that you weren't a refugee and you weren't telling them that you were American and that you were a graduate student from Harvard. You lying POS. You did let them believe it. And you know how I know? Because several Mexican publications, many of whom I contacted personally, like Alfredo Alvarez and Ibrahim Aros, had no idea about your Mexican connections and all of your dealings with the people from Standing Rock and your activism. And the Border Support Network. They didn't know nothing about that. They were super surprised. And then they started questioning you about it. And then they started posting about it. All they knew about were the allegations of human trafficking and sex trafficking of children and the prostitution ring that you're supposed to be connected to in Mexico. That's all they knew about. So yes, I did out you in Mexico to the Mexicans because they didn't know about the other stuff up here that you were connected to. And in fact, you could ask Ibrahim Aros. You could ask Alfredo Alvarez, who told them about the Antifa connections and the Border Support Network, who told them about how the Pitaya Queen, who he was very interested in knowing more about, because they were all looking into this woman and her prostitution ring and her trafficking of children. They were all looking into it, folks. I just showed you one. I just showed you one report, okay? I'm going to show you another one right now. Here is HipTech's an article I will share the links for in this show so you can go look at it for yourself. But in this HepTex article, it shows that there is, this post says, not even a Central American refugee fleeing. It's a student from Harvard that had already been in Tijuana before. Is it possible that Pitaya Queen is doing her ethnografia ethnobiography with observations as an observer, as a participant? Like, is she doing a biography of herself or something like that?
Maybe.
And the article goes on to say that, or the post goes on to say, Pitaya Queen, so like the Avatar style. It goes on to say, is she doing some kind of ethnobiography, Avatar style? Anyway, for the moment, the INAMI, that's the Immigration Authority in Mexico, it appears that they have to deal with this woodshed this individual. They investigate this individual, and there's an article link attached that's titled "Pitaya Queen, the Migrant Turned Out to Be a Mexican American Student from Harvard." Okay. I didn't make those allegations. I didn't say you were that you were a Central American migrant. Mm-hmm. Mexico's press said that. That's what I reported. But you all like to pretend that you are hard of hearing, like pendeja for Trump. Mm-hmm. She's like, she took a picture and she cropped a picture and she blah, blah, blah. I said there's a pattern of behavior of you hanging out with a lot of men that aren't your husband in semi-dressed poses, and that you've been accused of some shady things, including witnesses that said that you took money in exchange for being and spending time with, escorting and or amusing men. So, no me vengan con pendejadas, okay? Don't try to pee in my leg and tell me it's raining. You know exactly. Why are you parsing hairs? You know exactly what I said and what I meant. You're trying to distract people from the truth so that they don't realize that you're a liar. Here's another media outlet in Mexico, a platform called Lo que callamos los de Tijuana, what we of Tijuana keep silent. It says, she has nothing of being Honduran migrant. This one has nothing of being a Honduran migrant. They're a leader of the LGBTQIA community that arrived in our city. Their name is Roberto Nakay Flote, a student of anthropology at Harvard who is a United States citizen. They have raised a lot of money with associates of theirs, and they've used various aliases. Months ago, they had serious problems at one of the shelters in Tijuana. That's the one that we just showed you, held a press conference accusing them of trafficking children sexually and giving them STDs and prostituting people. But many people defend this person at all cost. And then, of course, it has the Department of Anthropology's listing at Harvard of Roberto Flote. That's how she identifies. She identified on that page at Harvard, and this is still up, I believe, as Roberto Nakay Flote. She also accused me of using her dead name. It's not your dead name if it's currently in use.
Yep, exactly.
And you have so many aliases because of your crime, and who can keep up? I mean, really, right? How am I supposed to be expected to keep up with all of it? And of course, there's also this Multimedios. This is Ibrahim Aros from Nogales, which is a state across from Arizona, where she showed up with a bunch of LGBTQI caravanners I think they left post haste from Tijuana and moved over to Nogales, where they were received with a king's welcome by the mayor of the town in one of the most expensive hotels, which, according to these two reporters, they're going to be there that are going to be speaking about their experience of attempting to ask her questions. Just attempting to ask her questions, to which she had a very, very negative reaction. I want to give you guys the link to the full video so you can go check it out for yourself. I know it's in Spanish, so if you don't speak Spanish, it's going to be hard for you to,
understand.
Yeah, but I also want you to have the full unedited version for yourselves so you can see what it says. But first, I want you to see the post from Agencia Multimedios. Here's the post. And it has a screen capture of the post by the reporter Ibrahim Aros, one of the many people that I was communicating with in Mexico and sharing my information about these con artivists and mercenary activists connected to the United States and the Border Support Network. And this is probably maybe, weeks after I first started contacting and speaking to him, shortly after he had been in Tijuana and she moved over to Nogales. Mm-hmm. Remember, they disappeared really quick from Tijuana?
Yeah.
And they were at this very, very expensive hotel. And it says there at the top from Agencia Multimedios, this is Roberto Nakay Flote, this person that has an arrest warrant in Nogales currently. Oh, wait, that is in Nogales and has an arrest warrant out for them in the United States and is accused of prostituting minors, prostituir a menores de edad. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, excuse me. Prostituir means to prostitute. Menores de edad means minors. This is another media agency and another reporter whom was reporting on this stuff that I was telling about the American ties to the Border Support Network that were reporting what they were accused of in Mexico and in the United States that these media people had learned about. It says, she is in Nogales. Watch out. They are very violent. The investigation into Pitaya Queen, the leader of the migrant groups, can be found at www.agencymultimedios.com. Now, in this video, which I'm going to share with you. I hope Nemo's sharing these links. Nemo, are you sharing the links? I don't see the links rolling. I don't see links rolling. I hope Nemo is sharing links. Nemo, share the links. Sometimes he falls asleep at the wheel, guys. You got to wake him up. Is he sleeping at the wheel? Hello? Bueno. In this clip you're about to hear in Spanish, okay? In Spanish, Ibrahim Aros interviews another reporter who also was attacked by them. In that still from the post, you saw Roberto Nakay Flote as he was trying to question her, and she got really angry and then had security remove him. And she was saying, once again, she was being threatened by him. She felt in fear for her safety. She was surrounded by Americans. And, well, I'll just let you listen and translate as they talk about what they just experienced and why they are so upset that the mayor and the authorities don't have more information and are not better informed about who she is and what she is accused of. Here we go. What did you see?
Bueno, sí,
Yeah,
pues ustedes
well,
vieron, no hay
what you
nada
saw.
más que decir al respecto.
They were aggressive. We just wanted to ask what they were doing, and we just had two questions, really. Was there someone named Pitaya Queen among them, and had they played with their own money the hotel here? How did they get financed? That's it. That's what we wanted to know. So they're aggressive. Oh yeah. They came on top of me. They surrounded me. And I was like, they made me nervous. There's a bunch of them, and they're very violent, and you can tell they're going to attack you. What did they say to you? I was interviewing Pitaya Queen. She's had warrants, and she was trafficking people sexually, bringing people illegally into the United States from Central America to sell their bodies, or whatever you want to call it. She prohibited me from filming, and I put my camera down, but it was the agent or the guard pushed me out of the hotel, and I feel it's wrong that they don't even know who they're sheltering. The mayor doesn't know. Maybe he's doing it out of kindness. Maybe they're gave it to him free out of kindness or whatever. But there's some really dark things behind this. This is a person that is a rascal, a scoundrel. Did you notice who they were talking to? Yeah, they were foreigners, Americans, yeah. And they were speaking in English. Yeah, she speaks perfect English. Pitaya Queen, she's from Texas. She's not from Honduras. She's not. Did you see that they had like clergy stuff on? There was two clergy people and some people from human rights that are all behind this. We want to know if they're trying to really help them because they're migrants or because they're queer or transgender. Pitaya was arrested for people taking people into the United States illegally, and that's how she makes her money. That's what this rascal, this scoundrel is doing here. And they're Marcos de Nistra Hotel. Fray Marcos de Nistra, yeah. We know that the mayor might have given them this gift with the kindness of his heart as a business person without knowing who she is and what she's doing. I wanted to interview her, and she turned away right away and started screaming for security, etc., etc. So we tried to bring you this information of, like, if you don't have anything to do with that anymore, you've done your time, you paid for your crime, if you say, yeah, I did this thing, and I was just trying to help the Central Americans, but she didn't want to interview with us. She said that if her image was shown that she would be put in danger. Why would you put in danger? Because you're doing some criminal thing. Why did they throw you out of Nicaragua and out of Central America? Was the cops following you? Did you have problems with the law? Did you come here to hide on the border? I mean, and Multimedios News is trying to find out what's going on. And I had to continue to wait. The mayor, Jesus Puyol, was there, and I wanted to ask him, do you know the allegations against this, the crimes these people have committed? That's why I went to cover that other area. I mean, I didn't mean to leave you. I was like, hey, Jesse, what's up? Why would you leave me surrounded by these rascals, these violent people? They're very aggressive, okay? And they started all jumping on me and stuff, and I was like, oh, man. I thought they were going to punch me, and I don't know. And then I had no backup. The people will protect me, right? We shouldn't be afraid, though. We're Mexicans. I mean, we have a right, a duty. I mean, we allowed them to come in illegally and without checking their background and without knowing their criminal backgrounds. They were violent. They were aggressive. The Mexican government had no control. They didn't want the help. They didn't want to have identification. They've been violent. We believe in human rights, but that's why we have given them, along their travels, a lot of help. Look at the hotel they're staying in. Not lots of people from this city haven't been able to stay in an expensive hotel like this. And they've been, here they've been received, and they get to be here, and they're received in a way that is I don't know. I mean, in the best of possible ways, with the best breakfast, the most quality hotel, and and that their bar drinking expensive drinks, and like people from the United States are coming to help them, and it's like I mean, great, I mean, it's fine, right? But why do they have this attitude? Why? Because, you know why? Because the one that's called Pitaya Queen is a rascal, is a scoundrel we came to expose so you could see the person behind them, who is here in Nogales, staying in a very expensive hotel. I don't know if the mayor rented it for him or gave it to them or whatever, but he doesn't know what kind of person is in there. That's why they attacked me. What about the charges against you, criminal charges against you? What about the stuff about the what do they call it? The what she was arrested for? Yeah, for sex trafficking. Yeah, exactly. And look at YouTube, you can see it. The whole article, the story about it is on there. And I was afraid that something would happen to me because, you know, if you've already done something, if you've already paid your crime, talk and explain it to us. Multimedios agency, we just investigate. That's what we're doing. There's a reason why they left Tijuana and came over here. The people they were harassing, and they were, you know, people started opening their mouths and saying who these people were, so they ran. There's a big network of prostitution with this group, LGBT group. And she's the contact for Latin America and the U.S. And she offers their services, their sex services, and she sells them, and she offers them to organization of prostitution in the United States. That's why they're getting them legal documents so they can cross over these people, so that these LGBTQI people have better chances of seeking asylum in the United States than Central American migrants. They got attention that is exaggerated and crazy. Okay. Wow. Just so you saw, I didn't say those things.
I know.
I didn't say those things, pendeja. It was all of the media of Mexico saying the stuff about you. I merely translated for my audience. I have shown you tonight things I haven't even shown you before.
Exactly.
But I always bring my receipts, pendeja. You think I'm just going to stay quietly by as you lie to people? Now let's go back to her Cindy Slander Pitaya post where she complains about me slandering her, okay? This thing that she wrote a novel about. Yeah. That I did this and I did that. Okay, so let's briefly look here at number 2. I was never at Standing Rock. I was actually in Mexico and Guatemala doing archival and field research during the time of Standing Rock came to be. Instagram never lies. Please stop spreading lies that I was there or that I was ever involved in it because I was far away. Stop creating unnecessary controversy, lying to your fans. Your reporting did nothing to inform the public. You spread hate and ignorance. Stop lying to your listeners and make coin. Mentirosa. Okay. I never said you went to Standing Rock. I said you were posting about Standing Rock. You were telling people how to check in at Standing Rock. You were raising money for sharing fundraisers and helping raise money for people at Standing Rock. You were posting about people at Standing Rock that were in the leadership of the crooked lawyers groups that were raising millions of dollars, like Winona LaDuke's Honor the Earth, and you're friends with her, and you both went to Harvard. And I said a lot of other stuff, but I never said you were at Standing Rock. See how they twist things just a little tiny bit? Yep. So that they can say, she was lying about that. I never said that. But I will show you even more proof because apparently I didn't show you enough proof that shows your very close ties to all the con artists that brought us Standing Rock. Which, you know, birds of a feather flock together. But here's a post about her being a PhD from Harvard. And it's titled Nakai Flote, PhD, Harvard, in which people posted information from her different social media sites. There's her Twitter account. There's her Facebook account. You can see she registered it herself as Roberto Flote.
Gotcha. Yep.
Here are all her aliases: Pitaya Queen, OJ Pitaya, all of them. Nakai Flote. Okay. And if you scroll down, you'll see that she has allowed people to believe things about her that are not true. Okay, this is a woman that has allowed the people of Mexico to believe that she was a Central American and a refugee when she wasn't. She also, like Lilith Sinclair and like so many of these people that act like sex workers, talk like sex workers, and quack like sex workers, unites with sex workers. Remember this post where she said, if sex work hasn't funded your organization, then you don't really know what's up with the trans movement.
Wow.
Is that what's funding
Jeez.
your organization? They don't even try and hide it. Pitaya also posts with Nicole's comments about her indigenous rights. Okay. So the lawyer from Al Otro Lado is definitely posting about these indigenous rights and her indigenous rights being, trampled. She says, the United States is violating my cultural and religious rights to be a trans indigenous person in this country. And who agrees? Nicole Ramos. She also agrees with her that, you know what? If other people criticize you even one little iota, if they're not part of the building and transforming in your life, OJ Pitaya posts, you know what? You don't have to put up with them. Here's that post. Build and transform with those that support your vision of labor. The ones that have ignored you, let them go. You actually never really needed them. And who agrees? Nicole Ramos. Pitaya also posted about how, you know what? If people exclude you, just take it over. Do it yourself. And who agrees with that? Nicole Ramos. Diversidad Sin Fronteras is the platform that this woman stole from a Mexican queer person named Hockenberry Sphinx, which I showed you from my previous shows. And who does she tag frequently on the posts of Diversidad Sin Fronteras? Nicole Ramos. Ben Berquam, you missed this organization. I just wanted to fill you in. If somebody could send this to Ben so he can see the kind of caca he is dealing with, and he's missed out on reporting on. Nicole and Pitaya are thick as thieves. They post each other's stuff all the time. Here they are posting about the children. She's posting about the unaccompanied minors. This is a woman that has been accused of sexually trafficking children, giving them STDs. Do you not see the hypocrisy in that? And of course, they claim to be advocates at Al Otro Lado for LGBTQIA rights when they're working with sex traffickers and human traffickers and people that exploit the migrants and exploit the LGBTQIA community. But that doesn't stop them from being speakers at 2019's San Francisco Pride Parade. In fact, on the website, if you go, you look, you will find that at 3:45 on Sunday, the speakers were none other than, drumroll please, Familias belong together, Al Otro Lado, and the Immigrant Defenders Law Center. These are supposed to be the advocates for queer rights. The people that actually exploit queer people.
Yeah.
And commit crimes. Does this not make you mad? It makes me so freaking mad. Yeah. It makes the people that are queer in Mexico mad. OJ Pitaya also supports the crazy ladies of Standing Rock connected to Indigenous Rising Media's report of the DAPL security in Morton County.
Oh, yeah.
This was from Standing Rock, and this is a post from 2016. These are just more receipts to show you that they're totally working with the people from Standing Rock and supporting all of their work. Here's the two crazy ladies that came out of Standing Rock. Winnie Alok and Sherry Foytlin. Sherry Foytlin is that lady with the crazy laugh, like a witch, like a Disney witch that you've heard me report about.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That was saying Cobbs and Clan go hand in hand, and she was in that Salt Lake City protest that, was in Texas later, attacking a shelter for migrants and threatening a shelter for migrants. Well, these people have been doing crazy stunts, lots of places for a long time, and of course, they're promoted by OJ Pitaya. Here's a recent post from October of 2018 where she's promoting Winnie Alok and Sherry Foytlin. And you can see The arrest of Sherry Foytlin and Winia Locke here on Lo Est La Vie page run by Sherry Foytlin. This is just one of the many times these two women have gotten in front of a camera for spectacle and sport involving arrests or clashes with the police. Take a listen.
Sovereignty! Water sovereignty! Sovereignty! Water is life! We'll never give up! We'll never give up! All right, we love you.
Water is life. Stick it to him, y'all. Stand up, fight back. What do you do when your love is under attack? Stand up, fight back. What do you do when your brothers and sisters are under attack? Stand
Fight
up,
back.
What do you do when your love is under attack? Stand
Fight
up, fight
back.
back. What do you do when your water is under attack? Stand up, fight back.
That's some crazy stuff. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We need a lock in there. And that's Sherry Foytlin. That's, whoa. You remember that show. Go back and watch it. It'll drive you crazy.
And here's Sherry and Winia's arrest. Screen capture. Screenshot. So you can see for yourselves the close-up of those two screaming at the cops and screaming for the cameras.
Yep.
That was posted along with this video. And of course, they're always going after Kelsey Warren. I'm sure they just want their cut, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They want their money. They want their GoFraudMe's filled. That's how they operate. And these types of spectacles are funded by the lawyers that pay for their bail or money that fund these mercenary activists to go and do these things. That's all for show, folks. Here is Pitaya sharing the photo of the arrest. Pitaya shares Sherry's and Winia's arrest on her page. You see? Same picture. And Lois Levy Camp is also shared by Pitaya for other posts, not just that one. This one is complaining about why isn't anyone paying attention to this? And it's an article again from the Lois Levy page from 2018. It wasn't from forever ago, where 4 water protectors, as they were called since Standing Rock, were arrested.
Yeah.
In another action, these people continually go and get themselves arrested for show. Someone pays them to do it. Who's in solidarity with this type of nonsense? Evan Duke, the guy you just saw punching people in Portland, Oregon again 2 weeks ago. Solidarity, still here, Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. And who is he posting a video from? Who is the person that posted this video originally, this video of these animals dancing around? Sherry Foytlin, the lady you saw getting arrested. Here's a Gen R media post of Pitaya that was shared that features Sherry Foytlin. She's the third one in the video. And what is it about? It's 2 years after Standing Rock, big oil is disrupting communities across Louisiana. Here's another post where Tara Houska, the Bernie Sanders liaison and Red Warrior Camp liaison and the Water Protector Legal Collective / Freshet lawyer. Standing Rock, shared by OJ Pitaya. Pitaya also shared Indigenous Environmental Network's post by Dallas Goldtooth. Here's her post. And at the bottom, you see it was originally Dallas's post. Winia posts from Standing Rock, and it's shared by Pitaya.
Okay.
This was in 2017 about freeing Red Fawn. Wow. And the guy that fired shots, you see Winia's post is the one being shared right there at the bottom. And, of course, when the clergy was called to Standing Rock, she posted that as well. She reposted that in 2016. And these are just additional posts that show how quickly how closely she was tracking everything that was happening, all the media reposting all of the propaganda media that was at Standing Rock, like Unicorn Riot, which I was also in Tijuana recently.
That's right.
along with TYT and Mark Lane. Same people, all working together. And Pitaya posts about Irineo getting arrested. The guy that got arrested with Hugo Castro, you know?
Yep.
And she also posted Alex Mensing. And the whole gang in Pueblo Sin Frontera is linked.
Oh, yeah.
There's Ian Phillybaum, who's one of the lawyers from that law lab that was listed, Innovation Law Lab that was listed in the lawsuit, the order that we read at the beginning of the show. We've got Nicole Ramos, Tristan Call, Elena Alderman, all of Pueblo Sin Fronteras. All of them, guys. Every single one of them. She works with them. She works with Pueblo Sin Fronteras and she shares their content. And she is a human smuggler, a person accused of trafficking, a person accused of prostitution, and more. That is who Nicole Ramos, that is who these people work with, for, and around with no qualms whatsoever. Share this show everywhere because it is incredible to me that this Ninth Circuit judge is going to give free rein to these criminals to keep criming while we wait for this to be resolved in the courts. Something has to be done to stop these people. Ask yourself, how are they not in jail? Why are they not in jail? Who is protecting them? Why are they not in jail? There's Congress members, there's politicians involved, multiple countries, and billions of dollars, folks. Lots of questions. We will have more evidence and answers for you here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. Thanks for being with us tonight on 88.1 FM KPPP LP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Buenas noches.